Hare Krishna. I guess this is live. Okay, there's a devotee here, Krishna Chandra from New York. He's going to be asking me some questions, and I thought might as well let everybody else listen if they want. Okay, first question.
Hare Krishna. They're in no particular order, and some are basic questions and a little bit more involved. Like the first.
Let's see. Maybe you could make sure they hear your question. Maybe you could.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back a little bit. No. Okay, he's going to ask the question.
So the first question is the sari Vedic? What was Draupadi wearing when Krishna supplied the never-ending cloth?
Oh.
Simple.
Oh my God. Is the sari Vedic? I don't know. It's not mentioned in the Shastra, and it is mentioned in the Shastra that the gopis, for example, wore belts, and people generally don't wear belts with saris, so yeah, it's not mentioned explicitly. As far as Draupadi, we've discussed that many other times, so you can look up Draupadi in the Bhagavatam, see what it says. Next.
So the next question is a three-tier question, and it's about the mantra. What does mantra mean?
You don't know that?
No, this is for not.
Oh no, just ask questions you actually want to know.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Why is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra more powerful than Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mantra?
Hare Krishna mantra is not competing with Sri Krishna Chaitanya. We just chant both of them.
So if I wanted to chant,
Prabhupada gave us a kirtan format, and so we follow it. It's not like, Vaikuntha's Got Talent or something where there's some kind of song competition going on.
Can someone chant Sri Krishna Chaitanya on their beats?
We follow Prabhupada. It's very simple. That's what it means that Prabhupada is the founder Acharya. Prabhupada chanted the Maha Mantra on his beats, and so that's what we do. It's fortunately we have someone to follow, so it's really simple.
Okay. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it states that Lord Vishnu glances and he creates.
Yes.
And the question it's sort of, there's many tiers to this question, but why did the jiva fall from Vaikuntha?
Oh, we're doing simple, non-controversial questions. Why did the jiva fall? This, of course, is a big controversy, and people have different opinions on it. I simply follow what Krishna says in the Bhagavatam. In 4th canto, chapter 28, verses, I think, 51 to 53, where Krishna says to the jiva that you rejected me, you left me, and came to this world. So, of course, the people always endlessly ask the question, if the spiritual world's so nice, why would we leave there, and so on and so forth. Prabhupada emphasized that we always have free will. It's not that you leave the spiritual world and take birth as a monkey or something, or as, or as a frog. There are, for example, there is a Vaikuntha planet in this universe. Prabhupada used to talk about a local Vaikuntha planet. There are heavenly planets where the life is not that different, you could say, from the spiritual world, in the sense that everyone is very beautiful and they have all kinds of happiness. They're all very pious. So it's not that a soul in the spiritual world wants to become a worm or wants to become a tarantula. It's just Krishna has given us free will, and so we can exercise our free will. It seems to me that it's not like, being in the spiritual world is not like being on drugs, where it's so much pleasure that why would you give it up? It's not that Krishna bribes us with pleasure. He gives us so much gratification that why would anyone give up that gratification? So it's just, so when you're choosing the spiritual world, it's not just that you're choosing the highest pleasure. It's not the intelligent question is, why would someone choose a lower pleasure, even a slightly lower pleasure, over a higher pleasure? It's not hedonism. It's not just trying to find the greatest pleasure. It's really about, do you choose to worship as opposed to being worshipped? Do you choose to live in a world where you are not the center? And so that's really the question, actually. Not why would we choose a lower pleasure. It's not about choosing between pleasures. It's about choosing between devotion versus being pious and having some devotion, but also having a greater degree of independence, you could say, or at least what appears to be a greater degree of independence.
If we're part and parcel of the Lord, what's the purpose of him manifesting in all these different forms or jivas? What would the purpose be of him glancing and wanting to experience his own pleasure potency?
Krishna is not trying to enjoy. He's not trying to enjoy his potency. Sometimes people misunderstand that Krishna creates the world or expands jivas because he wants to enjoy. First of all, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that we've always existed. So there's not some moment in material time when Krishna's thinking, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm going to make some jivas. So there is no such moment. Krishna eternally exists, and Krishna eternally exists with unlimited potencies. One of his potencies is the superior potency of the jiva. And Krishna manifests innumerable, independent, free souls that have their own free will. And we eternally exist.
I guess it would be sort of like an inconceivable concept of why I guess that spark comes off.
Again, I think we're not really getting it here. The spark doesn't come off Krishna. It's not at a certain point. No, that's not the point. The spark comes when if we come to the material world and then we didn't win the grand prize and we have to come back again to another creation, then we come out from Mahavishnu. Some people who I guess consider themselves to be real geniuses say that actually we're not originally with Krishna, we are originally in Mahavishnu or something like that. And all the descriptions in the Shastra that talk about coming from Mahavishnu are talking about new creations. When the universe, when time is up in this universe, the bell rings and time is up on the universe, then we go into those souls who are still here, didn't win the grand prize yet, they go into the body of Mahavishnu, and when another creation takes place, they come out again. But it's not that as eternal souls at one point we emanated from Krishna, like, 1 second before that moment we didn't exist, or we didn't exist as individual souls. Krishna clearly says in the Gita that we have always existed. Never was there a time when he did not exist, nor us. So it's just an eternal fact that there is a supreme person and there are innumerable jiva souls. We're part of him. That's just an eternal fact.
You have said before that Krishna, the triple O God, omniscient, omnipresent, or omnipotent, and
Omnibenevolent, yes.
So if he's omnibenevolent, why allow? And in conversation with someone, I heard one time that we go through 10 million life forms before we realize.
Really?
I'm not sure if
no, that's not. No.
Or even if it's not 10 million life forms, a lot of lives, 8,400,000 species of varieties of forms.
Including Republicans and Democrats.
If Krishna is triple O and truly omnibenevolent, why allow the jiva to have the opportunity to?
Because Krishna would simply be causing a greater evil. I mean, would you like to not have free will? Would you like to be a robot without free will? I mean, think about that. Would you like to give up your free will?
Not me.
Yeah, so if someone loses their free will, then they're not even a person anymore. So to say that why didn't Krishna create us so that we don't have free will? Why? Because that would be horrible. That would be a terrible thing to do. And whatever evil there is in suffering in this world, it would be much greater, at least here. No matter how much we're suffering, there's a chance that we can become purified, we can be liberated. But if you have no free will, if you're just a machine, then you're nothing. Then there are no future possibilities at all. So why would anyone want that? And why would Krishna? It's like, you can, if you want a beautiful girl to fall in love with you, just create a robot, just or just buy some kind of, beautiful female robot and program it to tell you how much it loves you and see how much emotional satisfaction there is in that. So Krishna is not, he's not weird and twisted. It's not that he created all kinds of robots who say, we love you, Krishna. I mean, you could just, you could arrange your computer just to say nice things about you, but you'd have to be a pretty goofy individual to derive emotional satisfaction out of that.
Right. Can you tell me, Harinam, is it sacrifice, charity, or penance?
No, it's all three, depending on the circumstance.
It's all three. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's a Sankirtan Yajna, as we say. It's an offering to Krishna, the holy names. It involves some austerity to do it, and it's certainly the greatest charity.
Would we consider Harinam as transcendental beyond charity, penance, and sacrifice?
Well, charity, penance, and sacrifice can be transcendental. They're not mundane. They can be spiritual or material.
In reference to chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, text 28, you said that people uninterested in Harinam don't receive Sukriti. Is that correct? That people who, when Hare Krishnas go out and they do Harinam, expecting to save the world just by.
In other words, people have to participate in their own salvation. There may be some benefit in just walking down the street and the sound of Krishna's name goes into your ear, even though you have no idea what it is, you're not interested. But what we can see by the results of the Hare Krishna movement around the world is it doesn't seem to be enough to make this movement successful in most places. And so if you look at Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving intelligent arguments to Arjuna, trying to persuade him to do the right thing. So people have to participate consciously in their own salvation. We can't just manipulate people where they have no idea what's happening to them, and we manipulate them into their own salvation. That's not really what Krishna is talking about. And Krishna says in chapter 17, verse 28 of the Gita, that any religious activity, including sacrifice, in which people don't really believe in what they're doing, has very little effect in this life or the next. So I'm not denying there is such a thing as a Gyata Sukriti, but Prabhupada said that we can speculate, not mental speculation, which means you speculate whether or not the Shastra is true, but we try to understand how is it true. He gave the example of Krishna's the taste in water, so you can speculate. What does that mean? So Krishna says in the Gita that he reciprocates with us, and he's equal to everyone. And so people do have to consciously participate in their own salvation. Ultimately, to make significant spiritual advancement, people have to choose it. They have to do the right thing. They can't just be unconsciously manipulated. And so I think if this movement spend more time trying to persuade people rather than just sort of manipulate them without their knowing what's happening to them, we might actually have more success.
How do we reconcile? So some of these questions that I'm asking are sort of questions that have come up between other friends or other folks. And one thing that they brought up is...
Oh, before I say it, I'd like to say hello to Kurvanti, Devidasi, and her co-workers at the Trinity County Chamber of Commerce. So thank you all for listening.
So how do we reconcile that with the statements of the Skanda Purana?
Skanda Purana?
Yeah. Where it says, the holy name of Lord Krishna is the most auspicious of all auspicious things, and the sweetest of all sweet things. It is completely spiritual without any touch of matter, and it is transcendental.
Yes, whatever Krishna's name is, you have to voluntarily accept it. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Krishna is non-different, God is non-different from his name. So if God is great, then the name of God is great, but you have to voluntarily accept it. You can't just be manipulated because some Hare Krishna cleverly caused you to hear the name and you have no idea what it is and you're not interested, but still he's got you. It's like the supreme gotcha moment. And so, again, I think that the Hare Krishna movement needs to really spend its time trying to persuade people rationally to take up bhakti yoga rather than trying to manipulate people by doing things where they don't really understand what's happening. That is not working very well. If you open your eyes and look at how the Hare Krishna movement is doing, I think it's obvious that it's not a great success. Whoops. Telemarketers. So I'm sure we're all very grateful for telemarketers. They make all of our lives that much happier. So then there was, someone else who asked a question here. Why is it so hard? This is Benny Folsa. Why is it so hard to chant if you've fallen into sinful activity? Well, it sometimes becomes difficult to even pronounce the names. Because chanting the names of God in any language is a privilege. And it's just like, why is it hard to drive when you're drunk? So if we're drunk on all kinds of, lust or intoxicants, it's going to be hard to spiritually drive. So, yeah, friends, don't let friends drink and chant, I guess. I guess that's the idea.
Can you clarify?
I can tell them to move the whole table. I can just turn the computer on.
Can you also clarify, I know you said that, is it the Nectar of Devotion in Chapter 6, Nectar of Devotion, when you speak about things that we don't change in philosophy?
Yes.
And so, are you referring to everything in Chapter 6 or just the first 5 items?
Okay, for those, Chapter 6 of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada translated as the Nectar of Devotion, by Rupa Goswami, says that there are basic spiritual principles that we don't change and there are details we do. For example, obviously, God is not like deeply concerned about how you dress. I mean, I hope that's not a shock to anyone. I mean, he is concerned. Obviously, you should dress decently. I mean, we should dress in a decent way. But to say that God is deeply concerned that you wear Indian clothes as opposed to Western clothes, it's like, seriously? So Prabhupada also taught that, obviously these things are not that important. There are things that are important. For example, there's great power in the names of God. Therefore, you find virtually in every major world religion, including Buddhism, by the way, if you look at Pure Land Buddhism, that the holy name of the deity is given great importance. So the idea is that God is present in the name of God, and so in every major religion, the name is considered holy. In Hebrew, they say, Baruch Shem Kavod, blessed is the holy name of God, forever and ever. So, in every, really, so, God is present in his name. That's something that virtually every major religion understands that. Last question.
Last question?
Yes.
Let's see. Which one should
Let's see if you win our grand prize. Yes.
Well, I just have 2 questions. Is that okay?
For the price of one?
For the price of one. Well, so should one always think of Krishna even when evacuating or breaking any of the four regulative principles in the act?
Wow, I guess we're getting pretty graphic and earthy here.
Should we?
Yeah, we should always think of God, and if we think of God, then maybe we'll do the right thing.
So if there's a lot of folks, I mean, obviously we can't.
Krishna said, Prabhupada said one time that if someone is an alcoholic, they should try to meditate on Krishna in the taste of their liquor. So anyway, the point is that thinking of God, remembering God, will purify us and ultimately elevate us. So we have to dig ourselves out somehow. Last question?
Last question. Why do we sing the mantras in Sanskrit or Bengali, like the Samsara, the Guru, etc.? Why can't we sing some of the prayers in English?
Oh, good. This is, I guess, Hare Krishna Vatican II or something. First of all, we are preserving an ancient, you could say, eternal tradition. And so I think there is something valuable in the fact that devotees of Krishna all around the world, in every country in the world, perhaps except North Korea, although I cannot confirm or deny that there are Hare Krishna devotees in North Korea. But really, all around the world, devotees are participating, taking part in the same practice. So there's something very powerful in that. And our scriptures originally, most of them are in Sanskrit. As far as the Bengali songs, they were written by great souls, and so we're preserving a tradition. At the same time, obviously, in addition to that, not instead of that, we should have songs in our own language. The reason that great teachers wrote songs or books in Bengali was because that's what everybody understood, at least in some parts of India. And so ultimately, and that's why Prabhupada translated the Bhagavatam. So we have all of our texts in English or in all the other languages. And so whenever we have a class, we give the class in the native language and we read the scriptures in the native language. So it's not just Sanskrit and Bengali. And eventually, probably, devotees will figure out that we should write songs that the audience can actually understand. I mean, eventually that will occur to someone. And, I mean, it has occurred. Obviously, some devotees have written songs in our languages, but we need more of it. Not to replace our basic program, but to augment it. So.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Yeah, so I'd also like to thank, where can we ask? I'd like to thank everybody who was participating. Let me see here. Marcos Santos says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, that's me, Maharaj. Could you talk a little about bhakti in marriage, how to do devotional service and deal with family issues? Oh, family issues. Well, you do the best you can. Obviously, if you are in a marriage and you are serious about Krishna consciousness and your partner is also serious about Krishna consciousness, then it's easy. You just cooperate together and work together and figure it out. If you're in a marriage where your partner is not as Krishna conscious or not Krishna conscious at all, then it's, of course, it's a little more challenging. But in all these situations, we just do the best we can. Have to be intelligent. Then Benjamin Aratia, I don't know if I pronounce his name right, Aratia, is Krishna concerned about the regulative principles? Krishna's concerned about our happiness. It's like, why is your mother concerned that you not eat poison? Why? Because she doesn't want you to poison yourself. So Krishna is not concerned about just rules for their own sake. Krishna wants us to be happy. And every good parent knows that unless the children follow certain rules, they're not going to be happy. So the answer is no, Krishna's not concerned just about rules. He's concerned about our happiness, and therefore there's some rules to follow. Okay, a question in Portuguese. Qual a melhor e mais efetiva maneira de fazer Sankirtan hoje em dia? Okay. I mean, probably almost all of you understand Portuguese, but since one or two of you may not know Portuguese, that means what is the best and most effective manner to do Sankirtan, sort of outreach, today, nowadays, hoje em dia, nowadays. As they say, the truth is what works. A verdade é aquilo que funciona. Você tem que ver o que funciona. And the criteria is that we want people to be happy. We don't want to use the old expression, burn out people. We don't want to disturb people. We don't want it to be a sort of a Pyrrhic victory where they buy a book from us, but they hate us for the rest of their lives, or they see the Sankirtan. We have to do Sankirtan in a way that's people are comfortable and they don't think we're weird and bizarre. And so it'd be nice if we are not weird and bizarre. So if any of us are weird and bizarre, we should work on that. So in other words, it's not like people are more purified, the public's more purified, the more exotic we are, the more Indian we are. That's not really. The power is in Krishna's names, not in Indian clothes. There's no spiritual power just in dressing Indians don't dress that way anymore. So, yeah, the power is not in clothes. The power is in Krishna's name. So find a way to glorify God, find a way to distribute literature about God that is culturally appropriate so that people respect us and think well of us. Just, figure that out. I'm sure you're all intelligent. So, Haridas, Acharya, that's me, that's my clandestine name. How do you muster the courage to preach boldly? I don't know. I don't really do much mustering. I just kind of speak. So somehow Krishna's making me speak in this way. I guess we have to be a little detached. I guess there's two things. I'm not claiming that I have these virtues, but I think in order to really preach effectively, you have to have two qualities. Number one, you have to really care about people. You have to, in other words, it's not you just want to get up there and blah, blah, blah. You have to really care about the people. And so you want to speak in a way that they understand. And another thing is you have to have I would say three things. The number will probably eventually go up to 108. But so one thing is you have to really care about the people. Another thing is you kind of have to know what you're talking about. We shouldn't think that, because I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I know everything. So everything I say is perfect. That's not a good start. So we should care about the people, and we should take the time and effort to understand people and present things in a way that makes sense to them. Hola, Dardura. That's an old friend of mine from Argentina. So, and another thing is we should know what we're talking about. We should take the time we shouldn't just be total amateurs. In other words, we should try to study. We should know what we're talking about. And we should care about people, and we should present things appropriately. Let's see any other questions here. Oh, someone saying, Mestre evidências, pena que meu inglês é zero. Puxa vida. Let's see. If a disciple, this is from Sanam Kajal. If a disciple sincerely tries to fulfill the order of the spiritual master but fails to attain the desired result, does it mean that the disciple has failed in his duty? Well, I don't think anyone just fails. I mean, if you try to do it, then you get credit for trying. So it's not a complete failure. And Prabhupada gave the example, it's like a little child a little baby is learning to walk. So the baby sort of tries to stand up and falls down and gets up and falls down and eventually learns to walk. So if you're trying, that itself is success. Trying is a victory. Trying is success, and you do get credit. You get lots of credit for trying. So someone who's trying should never think they're a failure. You may not be there yet. You may not have finished the race, but you're not a failure. You're just still a work in progress. So this is from Anish Diman. when we are not Krishna conscious, what are we? What are we? I guess we're non-Krishna conscious. We're conscious of something else. And whatever else we're conscious of is not as beneficial as it would be to be Krishna conscious. And of course, Krishna consciousness doesn't mean that you get like totally spaced out and don't stop at red lights or don't pay your taxes. I mean, to be Krishna conscious means that you have your eyes open. You see the world. You understand what's going on in the world, but you see it in relation to God, in relation to Krishna. So another point is when you're not Krishna conscious, it's just like there's less light. For example, when the sun is going down at night and twilight, and you just can't see as well. You just can't see as well, and you may, if you're driving, you may crash. And so if you're not Krishna conscious, you're still, in a sense, everyone who's conscious is Krishna conscious, because whatever you're conscious of ultimately comes from Krishna. But you're just not seeing clearly. For example, you may see a material object like a house or your own body or somebody else's body, and you may think that is for my enjoyment. Whereas if you're Krishna conscious, you see that's Krishna's energy and it's meant to be used in God's service. So if you're not Krishna conscious, you're still conscious. It's not clear. You're not seeing things clearly. So I think that's it. I think I answered all the questions. No refunds. Yeah, thank you for all listening. It's a pleasure. I am, in case you're interested, in Los Angeles, California. And I'm here with Krishna Chandra, who's visiting from New York. Actually, I knew his parents. He's a Guru Kuli, right? And thank you all very much for taking some of your valuable time to listen. And I hope to see you again soon. Ate logo. Hasta luego.